The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode.
All right, welcome back to the Influencer's Edge. This is the show that thinks outside the box, colors outside the lines, and disconnects the dots. Today, our guest is an entrepreneur, a healer, which is the reason why I want to have him on the show, because I think the intersection and the interplay, if that's a word, the overlap, all of that between being a healer and doing entrepreneurship is one of the things that's near and dear to my heart and my spirit and my mind. So everyone, welcome my guest, Maddison Brusman.
Yeah, correct. Thank you.
Maddison, thanks for being here. This is something that deeply resonates with me. I'm just going to go through your bio, but as I warned you or informed you before the show started in our pre-show little green room chat, I often don't go through the whole bio. So Maddison Brusman is a spiritual coach. Let's pause right there, because I like clear definitions, and I want to know, if you ask what the word spiritual means to a dozen people, you'll get 30 different answers. I burn incense, I chant. Let's define our terms. Voltaire said, if you want to have a debate, this is not a debate, but I'll modify it. If you want to have a discussion with me, you must first define your terms. So what do you, Maddison, mean by spiritual?
Yeah, so it's a funny term, right? Spiritual coach. And, I live in Tulum, Mexico, where that's kind of a common, it's something someone would do here, right? But, back home in the US, California, where I'm from, it sounds a little out there. But in short, what I do is I work with a lot of different people, mostly entrepreneurs, business owners, and I take them on really powerful inner journeys. And so whether you want to call that spiritual or just going within your inner world, I help them just go within themselves and find, like, what are the key emotional blocks, the mindset things that they're holding them back. And so when people let go of these blocks, whether it's old traumas, things they experienced, is it starts to reshape their worldview, and it becomes this spiritual experience. So a lot of the healing arts, the healing world, it unfolds as this spiritual journey, because you start to really realize who you are, your potential, your power, as you go through this healing work. So for me, the spiritual is everything is spiritual, whether you're 50 Cent or homeless guy in the street, or a successful entrepreneur. It's just how much we can recognize, let's call it the divinity within us, the mystical, the magical, and about exploring that.
Okay, I understand your definition. I also understand that people have different definitions. I'll take that. All right, so you're a spiritual coach and healer. Let's get into, again, I'm unpacking definitions. There's so many different modalities for healing. There's somatic-based healing. Now people have been showing really good data using psychedelics like psilocybin. There's good data on that. Controlled journeys where they have a facilitator or two who are very well trained to handle it. So there's that. There's plant medicine, which is a little strong for my tastes, right? So when you talk about being a healer, I understand what you mean. What are your modalities for doing this work? And because there's so many modalities.
Yeah, you're right. It's really endless, the amount of modalities. I mean, personally, I spent, a decade traveling to 25 countries around the world to study all of them, and to do all the plant medicine and living in, the Amazon and doing ayahuasca and mushrooms and all that. But my modality is really a process that I developed on my journey. And it's a mix of getting into the body somatically, where these traumas, these emotions, we store them in our hearts, our minds, our guts. And actually, it's called the letting go
Whoa,
process.
whoa, whoa, pause. You just dropped gold. I
Yeah.
told you we were going to do this. So
So,
sometimes people in the audience think I'm being interruptive, but it's more usefully interruptive.
yeah.
Okay, because you said the gut. And
Hmm.
what I've looked at in studies is the gut is the second brain. In fact, 90% of the communication between the brain and the gut goes up from the gut into the brain. So when you say gut, are you talking about the actual physical gut and healing things like leaky gut and small SIBO, small intestinal bacterial
Yeah.
growth, or do you
Right.
mean intuition? Are you talking about intuition or the
It's so funny
physical?
you brought this up because I mean both. So some of the times people come to me and they're having trouble making decisions in their business, in their life. And I ask them, well, do you have gut issues? And they say, yeah, I've had, leaky gut for the last 4 years, and it's all interconnected. And so the work I've done, whether it's a physical thing or mental, it's connected, is when we hold that trauma in our gut. So maybe it's fear or grief or anger,
So,
different emotions that we held from our past in our gut. It literally like contracts the intestines. And it's, our gut, as you said, is a second mind, even sometimes more powerful than the one up here. And
so
so
true.
when those traumas are clouding that gut, it makes it really hard to make decisions because we're holding on to that fear. So yeah, it's the spiritual and the physical, and that's really the essence of my work is understanding the connection between the mind, the body, and how it's one and the same.
I would think that I just happen to know from my own journey in guiding people, this takes a lot of courage.
Mm,
And people come to you, I'm assuming, because their pain is greater than their fear. The
yes.
pain they're in is probably greater than their fear of making the change. So that being said, is part of your process helping these people to find their inner courage or lending them your own? And if so, how do you do that?
No one's ever asked me that. That's a beautiful question. And yeah, it's both, right? So it's like most people that come to me and they're looking for more light. They're looking for that more strength within themselves. And they know they have so much more potential on their side, but there's just something in the way. And so sometimes you're right. Yeah, it's like they're looking for another fire to kindle their fire. And so that can be really helpful to have someone else's healing energy to guide them. But ultimately, yeah, it's about them, me mirroring back their own inner strength. So not, which I don't really care about, traditional therapy where it's, the power is sort of dependent on the therapist. For me, it's a mirror, or we're just mirroring back each other, and all the strength is within the person I'm working in, and it's just helping them to see that clear, to part the clouds.
So you have to be pretty clear yourself. You can't.
Yeah.
I've been in the NLP and hypnosis world for a long time, over 30 years. And so many of these NLP change workers are really good at helping other people. But when you get a close-up look at their personal lives, they're just unclean around sex, around money, around power. So you've had to clean that up. Did you have to go through a process of cleaning that up in your own journey, or were you always clean around those things? I'm gonna guess that you had to go through your own journey of getting clean.
Yeah, my whole path is the hero's journey where I was extreme pain. I
Let's
mentioned
talk
all
about
the
that. Unpack
yeah.
that pain.
Well, in short, so the long story is I lost the ability to use my hands for over 6 years.
You
And
must have been terrified.
yes, yeah, and it started when I was 20. So just the story goes, I started my first tech company when I was 16, and I grew up in Silicon Valley and was doing really well for myself. Um, And by the time I got to college, I wanted to be this kind of Silicon Valley technology leader, Zuckerberg kind of figure. And I put just a ton of pressure on myself to do it, and I was doing extremely well. Um, but I ended up having this trauma where actually I was at college, very top school in the East Coast, very expensive. But my roommate and I we got caught cheating on this computer science exam, and we ended up
Oh,
getting kicked out of the university. And a few weeks later, I just remember that there was this incredible pain that came aboard, and my hands curled up permanently tight, and it's an excruciating pain, and my heart did too.
You had extreme tetany.
Yeah, just absolutely could not move my hands, just fist closed, and the most unbearable pain. And for the next 6 years, I pretty much lived like this. And I went to over 20 different doctors in Western medicine, all the top people, Stanford and Kaiser and all of the Western medicine, and no one really had any answers for me. But I ended up going and dropping out of university and traveling the world for the next half a decade, really just studying from the top shamans, healers, anyone I could just to try to figure out the answer. And it ended up being that it wasn't until I started to really go within for myself for the first time, meaning the emotions that I was experiencing, my inner world, how I viewed the world, myself. I started letting go of all the trauma in my heart, the grief, the sadness, the hate I had for myself, the shame, all these really heavy emotions which contracted the body. And I started to let that go, and my heart started open. And at the same time, my heart started open.
Help me to understand.
Yeah,
I'm not being argumentative here, but
but
help me to understand when you mean when you say your heart started to open, what exactly does that mean for you? Just
yeah,
as an example for me, so you understand where I'm coming from.
yeah,
Uh, I had an experience recently. I don't want to get too deeply into it, but something assisted me. And what came to mind is that, that Hawaiian chant, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you.
yeah,
I've
100%.
always done that with groups of people, not bullshit, this is a load of shit. But this time, sitting in meditation, when I did it, something came over me. I just wept and felt a wave of forgiveness for myself that I could never reach before. So many therapists and other people had said you need to forgive yourself, but they never gave me a modality. So
Yeah.
I think that's an example for me of my heart opening. But what do you mean by it?
Well, I love that. So yeah, the work I do is it's the energy work, and to open our heart, it's an actual physiological emotional change. So it's those emotions, those really heavy emotions that contract our body. So all those emotions that were contracted in my heart, the depression, the grief, the sadness, the loss, the shame, they hold a tension in the body, and so they close the heart. And it's because we're scared of love, really, where we have all this fear. And
Yeah.
so opening the heart means to actually let go of those emotions. So as the heart is able to expand, both physically and spiritually, let's say, is it expands, it opens back to love, back to who we are. So as I went through this healing journey and let go of this trauma, not only did my heart, physically feel better, but I knew myself. I was in line with myself, more in love with myself. I didn't have all this, you talk about the forgiveness prayer, this hate and resentment towards myself. And so as I opened my heart, at the exact same time, my hands began to open again. And so the hands are, you can kind of think of them as these like portals for giving and receiving love. They're how they're connected to the heart through somatically. And so as I opened my heart, so my hands open. And I also, at the same time, really unlocked this ability to heal people with my hands. So that's one of the modalities I use too. People work with me physically, is the healing touch. Um,
Excuse,
but yeah,
forgive me. I don't know if you can see a tail there, but she wants attention now. Honey, Daddy's
they're
working.
also very healing. They
All
heal
right.
with their paws, their hands like this.
Well, cat's purr can actually heal bones. That's proven.
Yeah, the
That's just
vibration.
that's
Yeah.
not just speculation. That's beautiful. And your hands began to open. How quickly was that process before they opened completely?
I spent so much time and energy and financial investments trying to study the healing stuff. But once I started to really kind of crack the code and how to actually get into the body and let go, in about a year and a half, the consciousness came on board pretty fast. And it wasn't like, it's like pulling the sword out of the stone kind of Arthur's thing, but
Yeah.
this incremental daily kind of practice that just these small wins over a year and a half. And yeah, I really got the consciousness
And
and
so
that's
this is so Madison, this is so fascinating to me because in my own journey, I have had moments of like instant healing, but for me, and I say this not to make it about me, but to make it more relatable so you can continue to contribute with the brilliance you have. It's been a daily practice of meditation, and I have to meditate. And I have a healer who has said to me very clearly, Paul, happiness is a work ethic. Joy is something that's internal to you, but happiness is a work ethic. What is your comment on, do you have a comment on that? That joy is inherent and internal, but it's not the same as happiness.
That's pretty good. I like that. I mean, the work does, it's inherent in the word, it's work. So like we call this inner work a lot, and it requires that we, whether it's meditation, somatic healing practices, is that, we're putting in work to get it done. And so, yeah, we can have these, I think happiness is largely a choice, but that choice comes with work. And with healing, it's largely those old traumas, those emotions, that heaviness that keeps us from that happiness, from that joy. So if we want more joy and happiness in our life, the work that I do is largely about the work of letting go of what's not happy, what's keeping us depressed, what's keeping us sad. And when you can let go of all of that, you start to just move up in your emotional state and vibration. You feel better, and that happiness, that joy becomes more permanent. But it takes some work, as you said, and that, yeah, that takes discipline and, yeah, actually doing something.
What do you think of the idea as a healer? What do you think of the idea of inherited generational trauma?
Mm.
I am, I can show you, I'm Jewish. And so there's generational trauma
Sure.
from my people going back 3,000 years. There's also an amazing book I'd recommend to you called It Didn't Start With You,
Yes.
where, have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Have you read it?
A while ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing book that talks about how trauma can literally be passed down. So
Mm.
at a certain age, you can experience the trauma that one of your ancestors experienced at that same age with no physical explanation whatsoever. Do you give any credence to that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd say probably 80% of the programs, the emotions, the traumas that people experience are almost nothing to do with them. They're things that were just passed down within the family, whether epigenetically, energetically, through this, just talking in the family, being raised. And that work
Just for
actually,
those, excuse me, once more, for those who don't know the definition, I know the definition, but I want you to be the expounder of the ideas. Can you help us understand what epigenetic means?
yes, I'm not the expert on the subject. I met, people at Stanford who are, but it's the interplay between DNA and trauma, and how trauma actually affects our DNA and what's passed down, what DNA, what genes are, let's say, activated as, we pass it to our children. So in short, the science is showing that the trauma has a huge, huge impact on the DNA and how it's sequenced and when it's passed down to our children and grandchildren and so forth.
Cool. Let's keep going. So, after a traumatic accident, lost the ability to use his hands for over 5 years. Okay. Did you say it was a traumatic accident, or did you say as the result of being booted from the university? What was the traumatic
Yeah.
accident?
So in short, what it was really was, the my ego was so strong at this time. And I just said, hey, I have to be this incredible, successful entrepreneur. I have to code. And
Uh,
at one point I even said to myself when I was about 18, and this is the kind of language I would use with myself is if I wasn't like a multimillionaire by 20, I'd kill myself.
oh,
And
wow.
that's the
That's
kind of
horrific.
language that I would have at that age, right? And I painted it as determinism and being motivated, but it's really how I felt about myself and not recognizing how internally hurtful that is to my mind, my spirit, my body.
How cruel, how self-cruel
And you
to
can
do that.
imagine where I got this from, right? We just talked about family trauma. But as I got into the school, basically I started to really secretly, subconsciously hate the work, the computer's work, and that really wasn't in my heart. But my mind was so strong that I couldn't listen to my heart. And so what I
Whoa, 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 pause. That's gold. I told you. That's
started,
your mind was so strong you couldn't listen to your heart. Your superpower, which is your mind, got in the way of what was the most important. Correct? Is that
yes,
one way to put it?
yes, my mind was so strong that and I couldn't listen to my real heart's desire. And so this whole fantasy and drama I had in my head of being this kind of Zuckerberg second billionaire figure was so strong that I couldn't listen to my heart. And so my hands and had to basically sabotage me and say no more. And they had to close and say, we're not doing this.
It's almost like this story of Doctor. I don't know if you saw the Doctor Strange movie,
I'm not
where
doing
he was a
this.
very arrogant surgeon and he went through a car accident. And he lost the use of his hands, and it forced him to go on a hero's journey, a spiritual journey, where
Yeah.
Did you see the movie?
You're maybe the fourth person to tell me this, so I think I need to hit on Netflix
You
tonight.
need to see the movie. You would just immediately identify with it. You go, wow, it opened a whole world. And I think culturally, we're so programmed to be the high achievers, high succeeders. I think we are creating a society of people who close off their hearts.
Oh
In
yes,
a sense, that in turn probably makes people physically ill.
for sure. And I think this high achieving kind of mindset, largely it's trauma based. Really, if we get into the actual trauma that most of the people I work with, really these super successful entrepreneurs is, it's just trauma. We were taught we weren't enough. We need to prove ourselves financially, otherwise the cars. And largely these all decisions are all based off just feelings of inadequacy, not feeling good enough.
Yes,
And it becomes a terrible, we can use that as fuel, right? And most people do, and they become successful. But at a certain point, it catches up to us in our bodies, our minds, our relationships. And so really the changing point for most of the people who do the work is realizing they can use a fuel of just passion, of creativity, of love, and operating from that fuel source, that energy, rather than that's kind of feeling of just inadequacy and letting that run the show.
that's true alchemy. You're not just a healer, you're an alchemist. I don't know if you've ever thought of yourself that way.
A little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're an alchemist. This is just my observation. All right. So, you live in the Mexican Riviera. That's not such a bad place to be. Good for you. You've helped over 300 people from across the globe transform within through through his healing process. You worked at the U.S. State Department.
Yeah.
Did you have a classified, did you have a security clearance?
I did. I can talk about. I think I can talk about
How,
it.
we've had people who are former FBI, CIA case
Wow.
handlers and interrogators, and they had very high clearances. What was your level of clearance?
I believe it's called F2. I don't know what all the
Okay,
clearances are,
that's
but
not a big one. We can skip it. You studied in the United Kingdom and Israel.
yeah.
What an interesting experience that must have. What did you learn in Israel? We'll skip the UK, but
Yeah, sure. So I went to school in Jerusalem. So during this time, doctors had basically said, I can't help you. And maybe you'd find something more in spirituality. And that's what I did. So I moved to the holy city and I started studying Hebrew and mysticism and religion and anything that just really craved my spirit craved. And
is
so,
that a mind fuck or what? The first time, well, I'm a Jew, but the first time I visited Jerusalem, my brain fried. Like,
yes.
what the fuck is this place? There's something in that place. I hate this. I hate unclear words, but energy. There is something present in that place that is not present. The only equivalent I can think of is when I visited Chichen Itza, or how do you say
Yeah.
it? And
Pizza.
that felt very dark to me. I could feel the energy of sacrifice and human.
Hmm.
This was the polar opposite. What was your first when you first took your first when you took your first step into that city? What was your experience? Did you have any kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, this is different
Uh,
experience?
the first night, kind of coming in from the taxi as a 20-year-old, I thought I need to go back home. And I'm from this, kid from California. I'm Jewish, but I was raised very
Oh,
reformed. And when I step out and I'm in, basically, I live right next to Mea Sharim, which it's the most ultra Orthodox neighborhood in maybe the whole world.
oh, goodness.
And just everyone in the clothes and the traditional outfits, and I'm there with my shorts and flip flops and
Did they throw rocks at you for exposing skin?
No. There was other instances not directed at me, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of violence in that city.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, did you have a look into Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah, and did you find it useful?
A little bit, yeah. I'm actually part of a Kabbalah group here in Tulum, and yeah, I studied all sorts of text in Hebrew and had some teachers that were really powerful. And at the time, I think were clearly more advanced than I was as a student, and only now can I even grasp how important they were. Um, but
Isn't
yeah,
that the case? Isn't that the case that as we grow, I must use the word spiritually and emotionally and open our hearts, things that we were taught 25 years ago that only resonated intellectually or didn't resonate at all, now resonate powerfully.
yeah.
What a measure of growth for you. That's amazing. to unlock our fullest potential and abundance, we need to heal. That's true. So we had me one is so let's talk about energy healing. There's so many different modalities there. There's Reiki. I personally I've had a few sessions with different Reiki practitioners, but only felt something with one. It was really, really, really good. Do you incorporate Reiki in your healing practice, or is that not?
Not me personally. So I'm like what's like called like level three. So there's like different levels in Reiki. So I've been trained in it, but no, I really have my own process, and
Tell
it's
us.
really so I call it the letting go process, and it's largely more about this idea, the same idea that all my traumas were in the hands and the heart, and in order to heal myself, I had to get into the body. And so what I had people do is I walk them through where they're feeling their emotions in their body, and let's say that's unworthiness, right? And someone feels unworthy of getting to the next level in their business or having a great relationship, whatever it is. And I really guide them to the body where they feel that unworthiness. And the technique that I really use is it's called it's about surrendering. So the most powerful spiritual principle I ever learned in my whole path, the whole path, and I've spent probably over 30 grand, from healing modalities, is learning just to surrender to our emotions in the body. So if let's say there's unworthiness in our heart, is learning just to be with our emotions and accept them as they are, not to resist them, which is why they're suppressed and keeping us and why we're holding on to it. But when we actually surrender to it and we can allow it to let go. And when we do that, that energy, it's like it leaves their body, and people feel this gazing in their body, and they feel that their thoughts change, and they feel a lightness. And
How do you do that? I'm sorry. This is genuine curiosity. Well, I really want to learn this. So how do you do that as you do that, does the narrative around the emotions go away or change?
yes,
And it's here because of this, because of that. Does the narrative just fall away?
exactly. So, in short, like therapy, it's very heady. So, I come from a family of all psychologists, and I've been in therapy myself, but I found it not a great tool. And I'm a technologist, so I care about the effectiveness of things. But where I love the technique, the letting go technique, is that it's very somatic. It's like the body's as whole as the computer programs, and emotions are the little viruses, the little programs. And yeah, as you sit with them, as you heal them, you feel them, you heal them, and they go. And so, yeah, it's largely about getting into the emotional realm of the body, past the different layers, the onion layers, and yeah, just letting go of the hard blocks that keep us there. And when we do, yeah, the whole narrative changes. When we're holding on to anger, it's like we can only think from that space. It's such a low energy, contracted space to view the world. But
I
when you
get
let
it.
it go, you feel at peace in your heart. You can make decisions and act from a higher energy, a higher plane of consciousness.
This is so beautiful. The work you're doing is so beautiful. What occurs to me is your initial story where you weren't aligned with your heart. You got what you wished for, but what you wished for was damaging to you. Although actually it wasn't, because without that pain, you never would have set out in this journey, which has helped so many people. So it's very interesting. There's that old Chinese story, good news or bad news. The farmer loses. I won't go into the story, but you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah, it's that even the bad things are end up being our blessings, really.
I think the story is there's a huge pile of shit that a farmer has to dig through. It's horse shit. He has to dig through, and he's singing and smiling. And the other farmhand comes around and says, "Why didn't you give me this job? Why are you so happy?" And he said, "Well, with all this horse shit, there's got to be a horse underneath there somewhere." Excuse me. What is one of my bad habits, in addition to being interrupted, is laughing at my own jokes. So here's the interesting, this is another question that occurs to me, and I did tell you my own curiosity would provide a lot of the questions. Once that narrative that says I have to be successful and the rest of it goes away, is their drive to succeed still there, or does it change into something else? Does it change from I'm going to make a lot of money to I want to find a mission where I can make a lot of money and serve the world? What happens to their drive when the trauma that was driving them is lifted? How do you guide them in finding a healthier pathway?
It's a big transition. I just worked with a YouTuber this year, very successful guy, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and basically he did the inner work and he realized that the persona that he was having on camera wasn't him, and he had a real dilemma because it was making him a ton of cash, but it wasn't him. And he realized that it was out of suffering and pain and getting people to like him and trying to get attention, right? And he had to make a decision that that wasn't him. So yeah, right now it's like he's put a pause to the business and he's starting something new, something really powerful where he's actually taking this healing inner work and helping people, yeah, communicate better, but from that authentic, honest place. So there is a huge transition, and it's like a huge 180 of turning around the ship. But it's absolutely necessary if we want to uh, both make a lot of money, but we also want to enjoy it. Like we want to enjoy ourselves in the process. The real trauma train of most people who start businesses, entrepreneurs, when they're coming from that, I need to succeed, is they really don't want to fail. And most people, when you really go down the trauma rabbit hole, they don't want to fail because eventually they think that people won't like them, they'll be disapproved, judged of. And our greatest fear of all, and it always goes back to this, is that we're afraid to be alone, to be abandoned,
Yes,
because then,
I
biologically
identify.
speaking, we'll die. So
I
that whole,
identify. I identify with that, and that's hardwired because back when we were living in clans, if you were rejected, you died. You had to be accepted by the clan. So it's hardwired in.
yes, yeah. So it's a very stressful place to live life from, honestly. And so
Yeah.
when we can create from rather than out of fear, but turn that and create it, to create our business, our families, whatever we're doing, our projects out of love and creativity, it's a much, much higher, much more powerful energy. We can think clear, make decisions clear. We're better with our employees, our relationships, because we're in our heart. We're not, we call it in spirituality, the lower chakras. We're not in that survival state. Um, so yeah, it's a much more divinely creative place to be in, to operate from.
My other thing that's coming up for me as we're talking medicine is for some reason, and I don't know why, the word discernment is literally echoing in my head. And I don't know why it's echoing in my head. I'm thinking that maybe along with an open heart, we have to balance having discernment because an open heart opens us up to, I'll put it this way. I think there's genuinely evil people in the world, not just traumatized people, but actually really evil people who can put on a mask of love, who can put on a mask of affinity, a mask of mutual benefit. And so I think with the open heart, we also have to have discernment to not judgment. Judgment says that other person is bad, deserves to be punished, but
Yes.
discernment. Does that resonate with you in any way, or am I just
Yeah,
going,
I love what you said, and I completely agree with you. I think judgment is of the mind. It's the mind that judges others. You're bad, this person's wrong, but it's all mind. Whereas discernment is of the heart, and discernment is to discern even further. It's not judgment. It's that our heart it knows the truth. And I think where we're entering an era where yes, there's lots of evil, genuine evil out there, and we're entering the era of AI. And I fundamentally believe that as humans, as we learn to open our hearts, we're going to be able to discern what's true, what's not, and we're going to be able to move past the veil of illusions. And it's going to be a vital skill as we go forward, whatever this whole new digital age, to use our hearts and to see in our hearts what is true. And it's not
I
our
hope
minds that has
so.
the power to do it, but it's our hearts.
I hope so, Madison, because what I see is the digital age, particularly with social media, has produced incredible amounts of narcissism, of comparing ourselves to dilute illusion, because none of those social influences are as happy as and have such exciting lives. They all walk around. I've been studying Buddhism for a while. I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist, but the whole idea that everyone is really suffering on some level and it's interwoven into the very fabric of life. But we are taught through social media and what you would call the digital age that that's not real. Although there are people who do post about their suffering, I would say they're far outweighed by uh, people who are trying to recruit lonely men for their OnlyFans. There are more OnlyFans girls in the United States than teachers, which is an obscene. That's not a, that's a real statistic.
there's a spiritual war out there. If you want to get into it, all this, there's a battle between the dark and the light. And yeah, those who fall in the dark, right, we fall into that trauma, those lower vibrations. You don't do the healing work. And those that go towards the light, they're opening their hearts, they're actively seeking healing other people. And it's really just how I see the world right now. It kind of is a war.
The fact that you are doing this up against the tremendous drive in Western civilization for money, 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 money. I had a friend, not anymore, because he had terribly racist and homophobic views, but one of the things he said that still resonates as true is back in the 60s, it was perfectly okay to just be a normal person, to just have a house, a car, kids, a wife, and now everyone wants to be famous. Everyone wants to be a Cardassian, and you are entering into this spiritual journey encased and surrounded and enmeshed in a culture that points away from it, that says, no, 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 you need to go here. Or it points at the trappings of spirituality that never really opens the heart. I'm not putting down people who practice, astrology or whatever. Actually, I just met someone who's actually shocked me at how good she was. So I think you are still living a hero's journey. What you're doing is heroic. It's not just useful, it's heroic, and I salute you for it. We are living in an environment that's pushing against it, very strongly pushing against it. So I think what you're doing is heroic. You are a hero and an alchemist, as I see you. This is just my insight and offering. I don't know if that's landing with you.
That means the world to me. I appreciate it and I receive it. Thank you.
Cool. We are actually, wow, we actually went over. So this has been amazing. Thank you. This has really moved me and informed me and educated me. So my audience, I know,
Yeah.
will want to stay in the conversation with you, Maddison. What's the best way to do that?
The best way to do it is on my social media, which is my YouTube channel and Instagram, and both are the handle Maddison.Brusman. And yeah, I'm happy to give you all something for free. I just filmed a really incredible letting go course. So if you want to just DM me the word letting go and the Influencers Edge podcast, I'll give it to you for free. And I'll shoot it over.
We'll put it all in the show notes.
Yeah.
Stay with me for a little
Yeah.
after chat. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a wonderful guest. And I close, as I always do, to the hostile alien armada hovering in their cloaked spaceships just outside of Earth's atmosphere. Remember, eat the Canadians first. We'll see you on the next episode.
The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to the Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on the Influencer's Edge Show.